So I was going to sing a soap opera like theme song.
Okay.
And the one that came to mind was the one with the hourglass, where you see there's like a close up of a slow motion hourglass timing or whatever hourglass.
Oh my gosh, I didn't hear soap opera. I heard opera. So I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. Okay. But yes,
I mean, they're fairly similar. They're almost the same thing.
6 of 1. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But anyway, I was going to sing it, and I can't think of any of them. I mean, of course, I think that's Days of Our Lives. Is that Days of Our Lives with the hourglass?
I think it's As the World Turns. No, you're right. You're right. Like as the whatever, like grains in an hour, or like grains of sand in an hourglass. These are the days of our lives. Yeah,
which is not how hourglasses work. But anyway, I was going to sing that song as a presentation for this episode, since it's a little bit like a soap opera.
A little bit. See, this is why I really wanted Jeremy on for this one, because he doesn't know about the Mirror Universe. He doesn't know about Vedek Bareil. He doesn't know about Jennifer. Like,
it would have been great having to explain all of these very boring things to him. You know?
Well, I want to hear his thoughts on like whether or not this was proper Star Trek based on having no knowledge of
just nothing.
Yeah.
It's just random things. It's almost like the writers are like, and then what if there was another Kira? Yes. Right. Great idea.
But she's evil.
As you know, this is Measure of an Episode, where it is our continuing mission to explore what makes a Star Trek episode a genuine Star Trek episode, and not just the days of our lives. See, I tied that intro up nice and little bow for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm Paul.
And I'm Jonathan. And we do this using 3 criteria. The first one is there sci-fi that is directly related to the plot? And is that sci-fi explained in some sci-fi manner? It's not just, we're doing a brain transplant. The second is that sci-fi presented in a unique or novel way, as in it is subverting any tropes or cliches? And the third is there any moral or ethical dilemma that is presented to any of the characters in the episode? I'm Jonathan.
And I'm Paul. And this week we watched DS9 Season 6, Episode 8, Resurrection. And I can't believe... Well, hang on. Maybe I should read the blurb. The alternate universe version of Kira's dead love beams. Her dead love beams? Dead love beams aboard and takes her hostage, then reveals that he's running from his world's evil alliance, which is so great because it is just the cold open. Yet again. Your astute observation presents to us once more. And that the person who writes these only watches the cold open and then calls it a day with the episode.
Yeah.
So
no Crisis of Faith listed there. Yep.
What are the odds that the next DS9 episode we would watch would be... I mean, how many seasons were there in between this DS9 episode? 3 seasons. Almost 3 seasons worth of episodes, because the other one was Life Support, Season 3, Episode 13, where the guy who this person looks like or is died. It was only 2 episodes ago. That's amazing.
Well, and it was the last DS9 episode we watched.
Yeah. Right. I can't believe it. Like that it would. I mean, it makes me think that there's something wrong with the algorithm of our random episode generator. There must be that, or it's sentient.
How would it be like? It doesn't have the blurbs in there. It's literally just the titles, and like it knows
just a number.
Right. It's literally just a number. It knows nothing about these episodes. So how could there be something wrong with it to put this together for us?
Well, other than there's something right with it, and that it is alive and is punishing us for some reason.
Yeah, well, I'm wondering, like, is this the proper way to watch Star Trek? Like, have we created this random generator that's like, this is the way you need to watch the episodes in this order?
Yeah, it's not actually random. It's giving us the best way, algorithmically.
Right. Well, because the other thing, too, is we've seen the episode with Jennifer Sisko, who is referenced in this episode. In the Mirror Universe. We've seen episodes with the Mirror Universe, and we have seen, we just saw Vedek Bareil's death. So, like, we've already seen everything we needed to see this episode.
Exactly. And we've watched under 10% of all of DS9 so far. well under
Right.
10%.
Right.
How is that possible?
I just,
I mean,
all hail
it's
the random
astronomical.
generator.
I know.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it starts out with Dax and Kira, and
With the blurb.
They're talking.
Oh, yeah.
They're talking about boys, and Worf and Dax are having a party, and she's saying, "Who can you bring, Kira?"
Yeah.
And the only cache of men she's willing to suggest to Kira are men that she's already dated for some reason.
And men that have like glaringly obvious alien tendencies, like not just a cranial ridge or, prosthetic makeup. Like he has a translucent skull.
Yeah. Which I guess justifies an episode all for that guy by himself.
Which he's mentioned in like 5 episodes and he's never seen. But also the other part of that too is, I mean, the skull's the brain. Like it's not your head. So what does it matter? Like it makes brain surgery, I guess, a little bit easier.
Well, it would be kind of gross to just be looking at a brain.
But that's what I'm saying. Like we don't know that his skin is translucent, just his skull.
Yeah, you're right. But I think that the implication was that his skin was also translucent.
Yes, it was implied.
Right?
They talked about how they could see his brain. Yeah.
Right. Although I do like the idea that the hair wasn't, and so like you would kind of flip your hair back a little bit and just get a glimpse of your hypothalamus or something like that.
Right? Oh, sorry. I just did not realize that was a thing you had.
Yeah.
You didn't know I had a
Wow.
hypothalamus? So I do want to say, I only have a few comments about the episode of behind the scenes stuff, but there was a scene at the very beginning that was cut for time in Kira's quarters, and they were looking at the picture of Zial that Zial drew, and Dax was saying, do you miss her or something like that? And she said, I've dealt with death a lot. It's a little bit of foreshadowing. It's a little bit heavy-handed given like what the episode is about. But again, like if that scene had been in there, we've seen the episode with Zial's death. So Zial is Gul Dukat's daughter.
There was just so much talking in this episode it was so melodramatic.
Yes.
And I thought this was a science fiction show. I say that a lot about DS9.
This was not a sci-fi episode. Like
no.
Yeah.
Or you mean a Star Trek episode? I mean,
this was not a sci-fi episode. I mean, it you could say it's sci-fi because it's taking place on a space station and the dude's from a mirror universe, but you could easily put this at a Western way. What was this supposed to be? Not a way station. But whatever.
A Western Inn?
Well, yeah, like it could be a Western town, and just this stranger comes in who looks so much like this person's old love, and it turns out that he's a thief. Like there was nothing even sci-fi, let alone Star Trek, about this episode.
Well, so the only sci-fi, I guess, is that somebody travels from one universe to another universe, which, by the way, apparently is very easy to do now.
Yes, very easy.
You can just go back and forth. And we had talked about in the other episode how devastatingly bad it would be if this actually that they can just not just in a transporter now, apparently, but with this little device where you can just go anywhere in any universe that you want to at any time.
Yeah.
Very strange that this is not further explored,
right?
Although not surprising that it's not.
Yeah.
So basically what happens, skipping the dinner conversation, another hunky Bajoran, like I guess it's the same hunky Bajoran, beams aboard, takes her hostage. Kira recognizes him as Bareil. They beat him up, and then they get to Cisco, and he says, "You're not going to press charges against Bareil, and so we're going to let him go free." I was thinking to myself, that's not how it works. Yes, he took her hostage, but he also endangered the entire bridge. It's like you don't get to decide when somebody breaks the rules. They just get to walk free.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Like he's still going to jail. He still held a gun to me, and that we don't like that on the station. So we're still going to put him in the brig. You know.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. It's just it was so thin. And so, look, we need to get him into the universe and make it plausible that he would be a different person. So this is what we come up with.
Right.
It was just so thin. And they could have spent the first, I don't know, couple of acts talking about, is this really him? What are his real intentions? Does he have any bugs on him? Which universe is he from? You know, like throw some sci-fi into there.
Yeah. I mean, they obviously is this really him? Oh, wait. Are you saying like he could have come in as an imposter of Vedek Bareil?
Yeah, or just something.
Okay.
Give us something to sink our teeth in that's a mystery of some kind.
Rather than just presenting the fact that he is the alternate one right away. I gotcha.
Or just taking the word of like, oh, he looks like the other guy. It must be him from another universe. I mean, that's usually what I think when I see somebody who resembles somebody else.
Right.
Is it must be the same person from an alternate universe.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that they have dealt with that before and it's not common knowledge, I feel like gives him a little bit more credibility.
Then why aren't the Bajorans, when he's walking around the promenade, why aren't they in upheaval if they were lied to that the original Vedek Bareil died? Like, why aren't they rioting? You could lie to us. Like, why isn't the Kai, been crucified at this point?
Right.
They give no, like, what's it called when you explain something? Explanation. I could not think of that word for some reason. You were going to say.
The tell in detail. The detail.
The thing that says the thing about the thing.
This is one of those episodes, kind of like the Dyson Sphere, where we are talking about like what the ramifications should have been from this. And you're right. Like this should have been kind of an arc unto itself for like the rest of the season.
Right. And especially since they don't know about the other universe. I mean, why not take this guy? Because the original Vedek Bareil was this beloved person who ushered them into peace with the Kardashians. That he's obviously valuable to them. Why not reintegrate him as the guy? Being like, nope, he didn't die. Sorry, we didn't tell you earlier, but we weren't sure what was going to happen. Come up with a story. And then reintegrate him into the Bajoran life as sort of like the same plot line as Dave from the late 90s.
Yeah, totally.
Did you see Dave?
Yes, I know what you're talking about. Like the only thing that I can think is Kevin Kline in the shower when his wife tells him to turn around. Like...
Interesting. That's where you go. Not them singing Tomorrow.
Well, because I haven't seen it. Like that's in the trailer.
Oh, got it.
Yeah. I mean, I know the plot based on the trailer. And I think I've seen the end where like he actually turns out to be a better president than the original president. But yeah, I mean, should we spend the next 20 minutes talking about this?
Talking about Dave? Yes.
These are the Daves I know.
These are the Daves of our lives.
Oh, nice.
Yep, there we go.
Now
there's a bow on it.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, like you're right. Like the fact that he's walking around the promenade as if it's nothing, and people are turning to look at him, and he's kind of like, take a picture, it'll last longer.
Well, and they're not looking at him as like, oh wow, that guy looks just like the guy that died 3 seasons ago.
Right.
They're looking at him as though they know it's him.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. It felt very, what's going on here? They're kind of treating this very lightly. And this is where the nice sci-fi would have come in, where they're dealing with this kind of new person. Maybe it's not even sci-fi. Just, I don't know, what people would normally do in the situation where somebody who's been dead for 3 years starts walking around.
So yeah, but I think also the fact that you just brought up, that he's been dead for 3 years, I feel like this would have been more along the lines of like Michael Jackson sightings or Elvis sightings, rather than, oh my God, Vedek Bareil is still alive. Like it would have been just the extreme radicals who were like, no, I saw him on the promenade, and the fact that he was only there for 2 days and then is gone and never shows up again. Like, I feel like it would have caused a ripple. Absolutely. And I feel like there should have been some fallout from this, but I don't think that it would have created such a huge upheaval on the Bajoran.
Well, especially if he's playing it like an Elvis impersonator in Vegas. He's just playing Bareil's best hits every Tuesday and Thursday at the Wynn.
Yeah. Just reads all of his teachings and...
Yeah, that's him. Yeah. That would have been more interesting too.
In Quarks. Like absolutely. Like that's a casino. What else? Like, go to a casino, you go to a show. Like it's what you do.
Right. Exactly. So that was weird. So he's just walking around, everything's fine, even though he took the whole bridge hostage and tried to steal a ship. I guess he was never expecting to steal it, and he would have never gotten past Odo, theoretically, if he somehow bested what's her name.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot in that opening that later on just doesn't add up. Like, what if he had been successful and he was able to get off DS9? Like, what was the plan B?
It's like, here you go. We didn't really want this ship anyway. Please take it.
Right.
here's some food, you know.
Yeah. You need to get out of here. Like, people will see you and there's going to be an upheaval. Like, here's a ship, go.
Right. Yeah. But that didn't happen. None of that fun stuff happened. Instead, Kira, beats him up and he's taken into custody and let go. And that's the end of it. And then, so she decides after being taken hostage by him that she's going to take him to dinner at Worf and Dax's. And he proceeds to...
I love that restaurant, by the way.
Good burgers.
Their Targ shakes are amazing.
But it's just a Targ shaking in the corner. It's the first time that joke's ever been said.
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah. So she takes him to Worf and Dax's diner. Yeah. And now I like the idea that Worf retires from Starfleet and opens up a diner.
Russian cuisine. Russian Klingon fusion.
I don't get it. What are we eating? So it ends up that the new Bareil 2, disrespects Worf. And why he's not impaled immediately by Worf for disrespecting him in his own house, I don't know. But it doesn't happen.
I don't understand how it happened. Like, that knife was huge.
Yeah, so somehow he steals the knife from Worf or from Dax and, like, sloppily cuts this Jello in quarters.
Yeah.
What? I mean, I guess I actually missed it, and I was not compelled to rewind it, but it was just like, did he steal it from Worf? I don't know. But Worf was pissed, but he didn't care because he was like, more wine.
Well, he was very impressed at his skills. I mean, and I would be too, because again, that thing was huge. Like, how did he swipe it and hide it through the meal to present it to slice up the dessert? And what was he going to do? Yeah,
I thought that Dax had it in her hand, was going to hand it to Worf. He took it from her instead and did the honors. That it wasn't that he had pocketed the bat'leth.
Oh yeah, no. He had pocketed the mechleth. Yeah, like
mechleth.
Yeah, it's a smaller bat'leth. It's a one-sided bat'leth.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, like, because Worf was saying, there's no way you are that good of a thief. And then he's like, oh, aren't I? And then pulls out this samurai sword. He's like, what's that behind your ear? And he then slices up the Jello, and Worf, he says, I completely underestimated you. More blood wine.
As a thief.
Right.
Which I took to be sort of a not a compliment, but I guess it was a compliment.
Well, yeah, which is, again, very strange coming from the chief of security. Which I know he's not on this show, but that was his job for a long time. Apparently,
I like that. How did you do that? It's like, look, I've hit a lot bigger things up my ass before. This was nothing.
Right? Yeah, bigger and sharper. So,
exactly. So, by the way, then Kira invites him over, and they talk in the room, and she offers Ractigino. What is Ractigino again?
It's I believe
coffee?
It's a Klingon coffee. Yeah, it's a Klingon coffee.
Say that all the time, and
like
never
the trials and tribulations. People kept ordering it. I think it showed up in the second half of TNG, or it showed up just on DS9. But yeah, it's basically the equivalent of saying, "Do you want to go get a cup of coffee?"
Okay. So just as a disclaimer to our listeners, real quick, I know this sounds like we're analyzing the minutia of this episode. But no, this is like the actual plot line of the show. I know it sounds boring, but we're halfway through the show at this point. Like, it's not like we're only concentrating on the first 5 minutes and we're getting too far into the weeds. This is half the show. We have hit the halfway point, just so everybody knows, right?
Have we really? Like, did you mark that?
Yes.
Oh my
yes.
gosh.
So,
because I legit thought that we were still within the first 5 minutes.
No.
I am shocked.
So they have the sex, okay. New Bareil and Kira have the sex, and then
together,
not separately. And well, first of all, so then they wake up the next morning and they have another conversation about nothing. And they
talk about how hungry he is. Yeah, yep.
Yeah, and this becomes a thing. And I'm like, do we need to have people eating on screen anymore? We know what it looks like, right? We know what it sounds like, but yet they have to crank up what it sounds like for people to be eating on screen from now on.
Right.
And not just like covertly eating, right? It's like he's hamming it up with the eating. It's just, I don't know, it's so grating it makes me angry. furiously
I mean,
angry.
there was a payoff for it. There was a point to it.
Right. Why couldn't he just take one bite and been done with it? Just keeps popping them in his mouth and continues to just keep eating them and talking at the same time. And he's kind of boisterously eating them. I don't know. I mean, I understand that you're trying to seed something that pays off later, but we don't need this orgy of eating that we get in this.
Yeah, and for some reason in shows, I mean, I guess not for some reason, but they eat with their mouths open almost all the time, and it's super obnoxious.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
So then we find out there's a double cross where Kira Lynn shows up, and she's got her tiara, and it took them half the episode for the actual episode to start, right?
Yes.
And I'm wondering, so Kira Lynn wears a tiara, right?
Yep.
And I'm wondering, is this an embodiment of the writer's contempt for the audience? Because not only are they telling her to act fabulously villainous,
right,
but everything is exaggerated. And also we have to wear a tiara because we won't be able to tell the difference between this Kira Lynn and Kira, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, for this episode in particular, I think she did have to play it over the top because she did eventually get into Kira's uniform. And to be able to know which one was which, if you were just, watching it at 1.5 speed or half-assedly glancing up at it, you'd be able to know by her gestures who we're looking at.
Right, but you didn't have to have everything going that way. I would have been able to tell which one was which because of the things that they were saying. And yes, you should characterize them in different ways, but there are ways that you can do that where it doesn't feel like you're play acting. Yeah. I feel like she was so over the top in her characterization of Evil Lynn that it takes you out of it. This is not a He-Man show, right?
Right. Yeah, no, and I completely agree. I think she plays it exactly the way that she's played it every other time, but this was the first time where the Mirror Universe character has been in the regular universe. And so seeing her with the rest of the people, she appears over the top.
Yes.
Like if you think about the last episode where Ben went to the Mirror Universe and had to save Jennifer, which I just realized they're Benifer. Like that's interesting.
Nice.
But like when he was dealing with her, she was over the top. Bashir was over the top, but everybody was over the top. So it played just fine. And so for her to be in this world, it's like, whoa, tone it down, Nerys. Whoa, Nerys.
Well, I did have this problem with her last time too.
Sorry, just Nerys was in here the other night raving. Have you
clumsy old Maurice?
Yeah.
Is it clumsy or something else?
Crazy old Nerys.
Hey.
Oh no, I can't see her any other way now.
I think it's better. It's better for everybody.
Yeah.
So then the new Bareil 2, goes in and he is conflicted. So he goes to Quark's and has several drinks, talks to Quark. So Quark goes to Kira and says, look, there's something wrong with this guy, something going on. He's probably going to steal the orb. I was like, wow,
right?
You can learn a lot.
That was
really moved the story forward.
Yeah, that's a quick leap in logic.
He does a lot of intuiting there. That I don't know if all that information could have been intuited. But yes, so Quark moves along the plot quite a bit because we only have like 5 minutes left in the episode.
Oh yeah, like there were 8 minutes left when he told her that.
Yeah, or something like that. And then Kira Lynn wears Kira's clothing and sort of acts the same. There's that whole exchange with the guard, and she's trying to get through, and he's like, you need a code? She's like, give me a massage. And I'm just like, you don't think this is weird, buddy? Right. She's impersonating Kira by acting nothing like her.
Well, yeah, and she also just starts randomly rubbing her shoulder, after walking up, and he's like, is something wrong with your shoulder? And she's like, oh, it's just sore from whatever she said, like my training or something. Yeah.
I mean, what kind of dumb do you have to be like, yeah, this all checks out. I'm going to go ahead and massage her shoulder.
You have to be a celibate Starfleet uniform.
Right. No access to the good parts.
Yeah. Well, so I did like, though, as far as her overpowering him, that she actually did start by putting her arms out forward as if she was stretching her shoulders, and like she already had that forward momentum to pull back on. Like, so it seemed for me, as far as like the combat goes, it seemed the most realistic for her to be able to overpower him, because she already had that buildup. It wasn't just a quick, like, you know, judo chop to the neck and he's like, oh, I'm down.
That's true. Yeah, so I guess it is slightly more plausible because she wound up to the judo chop.
Right. Yeah, there was the full on like twist of the elbow wrists, like
yeah. That we have to believe that this 90-pound woman bested this 200-pound guard. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they have this confrontation with the orb, and then there's the confrontation with Kira Lynn, and they have this whole talk. And tell him, Bareil, how much you love me and not her. You know, it just felt so 50s Cleopatra.
Yes.
And then, so he shoots Kira Lynn.
Which was
and
great.
Says, yeah, he's like, all right, just enough of this.
Yeah.
Right? He was fed up with her.
Yep.
And so I felt like at this point, I don't know why he left with her. I don't know. And his only explanation was that, yeah, we could go live happily ever after until I screwed it up. I'm just thinking to myself, God, this is so weak. This writing is so weak. You couldn't think of a better reason that he would turn down a better world, a better life, freedom from this fabulous tyrant that he's probably in fear of his life from, who's, you know, he's bested. They could put her in a cell and do something with her because she's a big problem now for both their universes. Why did he go? They give us no reason other than they can't have him around anymore in this universe because it would complicate things.
Right. Yeah, no, those are all valid points to which I have nothing.
Yeah, because it's such weak, and it just comes down to the weak writing.
Yeah.
He never said, look, I like it in my home. I like it there better.
Right.
Yes, it may feel more brutal. You're in fear for your life 100% of the time, but it is my home. And this just feels wrong to me. This feels alien, and I want to go home. Even if they said that,
yeah,
that would have been fine.
Right.
But the only explanation was like, well, I would screw it up anyway. So, well, you might as well give it a shot, bud. You know, like you're going back to like death and destruction and murder and mayhem.
And you have a teleporter where you can go back anytime.
Yeah. I did not like this episode.
Right. No, and I agree. I think, you know, I think it's not a bad idea. You know, not even a good premise, but it's not a bad idea of bringing a character, dead or not, just bringing a character over from the mirror universe to this one for some reason. You know, like all of that can be ironed out, but that idea of having somebody come over from their universe to ours hasn't been explored, and that is a fun idea to try and figure out like what would you do with it. They did try, and it did not work.
Yeah. They just don't explore all of the implications of bringing somebody else over.
Well, and not even just somebody. Like the fact of who they brought over was just so many more ramifications. And so what's interesting is nobody was really thrilled with this episode behind the scenes. The writers, because, you know, they were like, well, the fans are going to be mad no matter what we did. We just came off a really long arc, and then we had Worf and Dax's wedding. There really wasn't an episode we could follow all of that up with that people would be happy with. And, you know, obviously our argument is you could have picked a better one.
Yeah, write a better one.
Yeah, but Nana Visitor actually did not like this episode because she felt it had been so long that Kira would not have acted this way around Bareil. She, you know, it's been 3 years. She had moved on. And I agree to a certain extent, but it's also, you know, it's just a weird thought experiment. Like if after 3 years, literally like the guy that you loved and you were planning on spending the rest of your life with just suddenly showed up and, you know, same face, same physique, same everything. He just acted differently. Would you be able to separate and distinguish those two? Or would you fall back? Would you regress? Would you fall back into those habits?
I don't think it's that. I think it's just the novelty of it and the fact that it's like, you know, it's like an old fling. It's like, oh, wow, like I get to experience this again. I can't say that even after an unlimited amount of time, that anybody wouldn't jump at the chance to do something like that if given the opportunity. She wouldn't have to ease into it, right? She would be like, wow, it's sort of like, when you see an old girlfriend or something like that was dead.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I hadn't thought about it that way.
Like, I don't blame her for falling into that, but boy, is Odo pissed.
Right.
Because I thought he was going to stay. I thought that was going to be the plot line for some reason. And poor Odo can't catch a break with trying to get Kira back.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so weird, these character episodes, specifically on DS9, I've noticed. Like, they have all of their actors in every episode, but when it's like a real character piece and it's not a station episode, they're in it for half a scene. Like Quark was in it for all of 2 scenes. Worf was in it for 2, maybe 3. Bashir was in it for 1.5.
Yeah.
Cisco was in it for 1.
Yes, it was a character piece, I guess, theoretically, but it's an ensemble cast.
Right.
I feel like they should be writing these things with the ensemble in mind, and not just and not liabilities, but actual participants.
Right.
So where are you with this as being a proper Star Trek episode?
No and no. Like, I did not think it was a good episode. Especially, like, I think back to back, it's not too bad, but the fact that there's 3 seasons between the two, it just comes out of left field, and it doesn't. For DS9 having as many episodes that have bigger consequences as it does, the fact that Bareil came back and nothing, like, it just wraps up in a single episode. I think that it was. They didn't kind of like with the Matter of Time, with the last week's episode. Like, I don't think that they knew what they were doing with it, and so they just kind of wrapped it up, and it was too big of an episode to be just a single episode story arc, and so ultimately it just kind of doesn't work out, and there was no sci-fi in it.
Like none.
Yeah.
Right?
None. I mean, there obviously was the mirror universe and the orb, quote unquote, but none of like the mirror universe is not necessary to the plot. That could easily have been just a stranger from out of town turns out to be a thief, and the orb is never explained. That's 100% magic.
Well, it's religious,
right?
And I feel like all of the Bajoran religious stuff just feels like a really nice massage place, like a spa.
Oh, for sure.
It just always feels that way. But yeah, I mean, I'm okay with Star Trek there being a little bit of religion in there, even though I think it was originally conceived as not having any religion. Star Trek being, but they put it in there. That's fine with me, but they don't really explore it. Also, their religion actually happens to be real.
Right.
It's real. There are prophets.
Yeah.
Sisko has met one or met them all.
Right. And Sisko eventually becomes one.
Yeah.
So I think to speak to the religion thing, there's been religion since the original series, but the idea is that humans have transgressed beyond religious conflict. And the idea being that like at a certain point it just becomes a security blanket rather than a way of life. But Klingons have a religion, Bajorans do, lots of alien races have religions. So it's kind of cool to have that angle more prevalent on DS9. But yeah, ultimately.
Right. Yeah. Also, it's interesting. So he has the new Bareil has like the earring, and I always thought the earring was part of their religion, but he proclaims to not.
I think it is
to not be religious.
Right.
And doesn't really even know what he's doing in the massage parlor that they go into.
Yeah. No, it's a good point. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Yeah.
But we won't look it up. Don't look it up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Listeners, if you want to look it up, you can tell us.
Let us know. Let us know how we're wrong.
So far, we still haven't received any emails, so it seems like our email is still broken.
Well, maybe there's something wrong with the email. Is that possible?
Yeah. So it's THE, M as in Maurice.
Let's see what we're watching next.
Okay.
Star Trek, The Next Generation, Season 6, Episode 23, Rightful Hair. And Jonathan, what is the blurby blurb?
Well, Paul, after being distracted while on duty, Worf is placed on leave and given time to get his personal affairs in order.
It's a Klingon episode.
Well, it's not only a Klingon episode, it's a Kronos episode. He's got to go back and figure out what's happening with his house.
Yeah. Hopefully it's being burned down to the ground.
Well, let's go watch it.
Okay. I've been Paul.
I've been Jonathan.
And this has been The Measure of an Episode, as you know.